This is James I. He reigned between 1603 and 1625. He was the first Stuart monarch, and to really understand him I think you need to do nothing else but read Macbeth. But think of Macbeth as fact and not fiction, and you're close to James's psychology. Let me explain what I mean. James wrote a book about how to catch real witches. He really believed in witches. This was part of his general attitude towards women. James preferred men. He got married, of course, to Queen Anne of Denmark, and he did, as he put it, did his duty by her. This is an image of them. As you can see, there probably wasn't a very loving marriage. Interesting story, the Queen's house in Greenwich Park was built after they'd had a row. Anne ended up shooting one of James's dogs. Don't know why. James swore at her, and then to apologise he had the Queen's house built. Now, what's interesting is if you look at that little colonnade either side of the house, that wasn't there originally. There's a road that runs straight underneath the house, splitting it in two. So though it looks like one building from the outside, effectively it's two separate apartments, which I think is probably a fair architectural analogy for their marriage. This is another book James wrote called the Basilican Doran, which means royal gift. In it he sets out his belief that kings are closer to God than normal men. There was a chain of being, a hierarchy of being. Kings were closer to God. They were like little gods. And this gave them special powers. And he meant this. He actually believed he could lay his hands on people and, using what was called the royal touch, cure them of scrofula, whatever that was. This is a tradition that the Stuarts carried on at least until Charles II, his grandson. They believed, or at least they pretended to believe, they had special, almost superhuman powers. When James watched Macbeth, which was written for him, he saw witches and he saw a king being murdered, and that caused horses to fight each other and all kinds of other weird disruptions in the chain of being. Macbeth was a clear insight into the psychology of James I, and I think if you recall the play, you'll see that James was quite a messed up character. Certainly I was never taught that the King of England was scared witless of witches, nor that he thought he was some kind of god. So isn't it interesting we're never taught this stuff at school?